Good morning, everyone. So, by now, you might have understood the advantages and the data processing of hyperspectral remote sensing. So, now today I will briefly introduce you the application of hyperspectral remote sensing in water resources. So, let us start with the water quality studies. So, there is no standard spectral library available for the water with varying concentration of water quality parameters. Moreover, it is difficult to prepare the spectral library of water with varying concentration of water quality parameters, as it varies with location, depth, and the composition of water. So therefore we have to collect field spectra using field spectroradiometer on ground. So this is how the spectra of water with varying sediment concentration looks like. You can see that there is the reflectance is increasing with the increase in the sediment concentration in the red region, and the peak is shifting slightly towards the NIR region. So using this information, we can identify the composition of water with respect to total suspended solids. Here the spectra of turbid water with presence of algae is shown. You can see that the strong chlorophyll absorption in the blue region, the blue light absorption in this region, and the red light absorption at 675 nanometer. Using the similar approach, IRS has also conducted a field campaign to collect the field spectra of Chilka Lake water. So these are the instruments used in the field survey. So here you can see that this is the field spectroradiometers, this is the portable echo sounder for measuring the depth of the water, and this is the portable turbidity meter to measure the turbidity on ground, and this is the handle GPS to measure the location of the point. Here you can see this location of Chilka Lake in India and the water samples collected along with these field spectroradiometer readings. So the samples were later analyzed in the lab for the chemical and physical properties. So these are the spectra collected from the field for each point. You can see there is a large variation in the spectra. It is mainly due to the different composition of water. So what we have done, we have segregated the spectra based on their turbidity concentration, and here for example you can see here the spectra of points where the turbidity is less than 5 NTU, and this is the respective spectra of these points. So here if you see, with the increase in the turbidity, this reflectance is increasing. So here you can see the spectra of turbidity between 5 to 10 NTU. Now these are the locations of the spectra where the turbidity is 10 to 15 NTU and the corresponding spectra of turbidity 10 to 15 NTU. Similarly, this is for 15 to 25 NTU. Again you can see that the reflectance is increasing in red region with the increase in the turbidity. Similarly, this is the spectra correspond to 25 to 45 NTU turbidity, and this is the spectra for 45 to 100 NTU, and finally this is the turbidity of the spectra of turbidity more than 100 NTU. So later what we have done, we have done this spectral similarity analysis where the image spectra and the field spectra have been used, and the angle between the spectral angle between the two spectra has been calculated. Wherever the angle is minimum, that pixel, the particular pixel has been assigned the class of that field spectra to that particular pixel. So in this way the entire image has been classified into these many classes of turbidity. So you can, if you compare this output, the SAM classified output of with respect to turbidity with the FCC, you can see that wherever the turbidity is high, it is coming in the range of more than 100 NTU. Similarly, where the turbidity is less, suppose in this point, So it is coming in the range of less than 5 NTU. In this way, if we have the the spectral library with different varying concentration of any parameter, we can map the water quality using the spectral similarity analysis. So here in this figure you can see the closeness of field spectra and the image spectra. You can see in each of the points, these are the sample points. The location of these sample points are shown in this FCC as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So at each of these 8 locations, what is the closeness of image spectra and the field spectra? You can see that it is in each of these point it is closely matching with each other. And this is in this table you can see the SAM score. If it is considered that when SAM score is close to 1, the similarity between two spectra is very high. So in our study we have found that the SAM similarity score is around 0.8. It is always more than 0.8. And if you see, with the increase in the turbidity, the absorption at 616 nanometer, it is decreasing. It means absorption is decreasing, reflectance is increasing. Using this information, we have classified the image with respect to turbidity. So later what we have done, we have compared our estimated turbidity with the major turbidity. This turbidity, the Chilka Development Authority, they measure the water quality parameters of this lake very regularly. So if when we compared the latest data of the corresponding to this date, it was well matching with the observed turbidity. So I would like to mention here that if we have the field spectral library of water with respect to particular water quality parameter, we can generate the water quality maps, spatial water quality maps, using the hyperspectral remote sensing data. So now we will look at the applications of hyperspectral remote sensing in snow studies. As we all know, snow physical parameters are important for hydrological modeling, snow melt runoff modeling, and the climate change studies. So field measurement of these properties will give you point information and restricted to the limited locations, as many of the locations are not accessible. So hyperspectral remote sensing can provide spatial information for any location easily. So this is the typical spectral curve of snow. So as you all know, the snow reflects more in the visible region and it goes on decreasing with the increase in the wavelength. So these are the factors which affects the snow spectra. So these are the factors like grain size, contamination, water content, snow depth, solar zenith angle, and cloud cover. So we need to again measure the spectra on field. So such kind of instrumentation is required to collect the field spectra on field. So this is our spectroradiometer, this is pinometer and this is the moisture meter. Similarly, and this is the weighing machine for calculating the density of snow. So this is how the spectra varies with the grain size. So as the grain size increases, the absorption dip at 1050 nanometer decreases. So in this way we can identify the grain size of the snow. So using such kind of field spectra, we can generate the spatial map of grain size. So here you can see that the red ones are the coarser grains and the green ones are the fine grain snow. So snow grain size is very important. We can with the help of snow grain we can identify whether it is a fresh snow or old snow, and we can get some idea about how much water it can store. That means snow water equivalent. So we will not always get this fresh snow or clean snow. it sometimes it may be contaminated, it may be so we can do the field measurement with using the field spectroradiometer with varying soil, ash, coal, contaminated snow, and we can generate the field spectral library with respect to soil contaminated, snow reflectance, with ash contamination, and with coal contamination. So this is the spectra, field spectra, when the soil of 1 mg per square centimeter to 10 mg milligrams per square centimeter has been added in the snow, and this is the corresponding spectra. So you can see that with the increase in sediment, the reflectance is decreasing in this region. So using this information, we can identify whether the snow is contaminated or not with the soil. Similarly, this is the field spectra of ash contaminated snow. So you can see that with the increase in ash contamination, the reflectance is decreasing. Similarly, this is how when coal is contaminated in snow, so reflectance will decrease with the increase in the coal concentration. So if we have such kind of field spectras, we can identify the what kind of the condition is there in the field of snow. So snowfall, whenever it is occur, it will not have the plain or smooth surface, there may be vegetation. So we have to have these field spectra of snow and vegetation mixed areas. So in this setup, you can see that how the field spectra has been collected for the snow and vegetation mixed area. So this is the corresponding field spectra. With the increase in the vegetated condition, the reflectance is changing. So using this information, we can again find out the places where there is a mix of snow and vegetation area. So I can say that there is a huge potential of hyperspectral remote sensing in water resources studies, mainly in water quality and snow studies. Some attempts have been made for soil moisture studies also. So lot of literature is available for soil moisture studies in the internet. Thank you.